It's $6. For the princess. Earnest Money. Do diligence.
Well, this week on Real Estate for Toddlers, no guest, it's just me, and we're gonna do something that I think is really important today, especially for you first-time home buyers that might be out there. It's a really important part of the process, and I think that's just to give you an overview of what buying a home actually looks like. What's the step-by-step process from deciding that you're ready, deciding that it's time to buy your first home, to actually getting the keys and walking through the front door, because there's a lot that goes on, and there's a lot that goes on that you aren't necessarily involved in. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that are happening in the home buying process that I think it's important to have clarity on. And so today, I just want to take you step by step through that process so that on the front end, you're understanding this is what I'm getting myself involved in. This is what's going to be happening for the next month or several months as I prepare to buy my first home. So the first part of the process, promise is not a shameless plug, it just is the first part of the process, is to find a realtor to work with. Now, I am saying realtor there and not just a real estate agent. I think it's important to find a realtor. And the reason I believe that is because realtors are held to a higher standard of ethics. There's extra education, there's extra training, there's just a higher level of certainty that you're dealing with someone who takes their job seriously, who really does care about making sure that you have a smooth home buying transaction. So don't just look for anybody that has a license somewhere. Find a realtor. Find somebody that's going to give you the guidance and care that's needed to walk through the home buying process. The second part of that, and really kind of what happens behind the scenes there, is based on the criteria that you and your realtor talk about, based on what you decide you're looking for. They're going to start a search kind of in the background, and they're probably not going to be sending it to you day one. They're just going to say, okay, you're looking in Alpharetta for a 4-bedroom under $750,000. Maybe that's what you're looking for. They're going to go ahead and start that process so they can see, hey, let's at least see what's on the market. Let me just get an idea of how feasible this is. Let me know if we need to shift and widen the search area, or, you know, whatever it is. They're going to get that search process started after talking to you. The next thing that needs to happen is that you need to talk to a lender, and most likely your realtor is going to have a lender or two that they work with regularly, that they really trust. So you're going to need to talk to that lender next. And here's maybe an overlooked thing. You absolutely should get the best possible loan product for you. You should go with a loan officer that you really like and trust, all those things. But it actually is really important that your lender and your agent have a good relationship, because they're going to need to be in constant contact. And here's the other thing. With the market the way it is right now, you don't just need a good lender that's going to get stuff done behind the scenes. You need a lender who's willing to speak out on your behalf and make your offer even more appealing to that listing agent and the seller, to say, hey, the Smiths, I'm working with them, they're good. You can guarantee that their loan's gonna come through. They're not looking, like they're in trouble anywhere. Trust them, take their offer. That goes a long way coming from a lender and not just your realtor. So it is important that you choose a lender that doesn't just do the behind the scenes stuff, but they actually are gonna advocate for you to get that home that you put an offer on. The lender is going to take you through a pre-approval process, which is going to be fairly intrusive, I'll be honest. They're going to get a lot of information from you because, again, keep in mind, you're asking their institution for a lot of money, and they want to know that they're going to get it back. So it is a fairly intrusive process, but it's what's necessary right now. You almost have to be pre-approved in this market to have a serious offer that people are going to look at. The lender is going to give you the top end of your budget. They're going to say, hey, here's the maximum amount that we will loan you. That doesn't necessarily have to be your personal budget. You might say, well, that's great that you'll lend me $400K, but looking at our finances and we want to save for this thing and we're looking at this thing next year, you might say, we only want to spend $300. Great, that's totally up to you, totally your decision. The lender does not provide you your budget. The lender just says you can't go any further than this with our bank. So that's important to remember. The next thing that's going to be happening, and some of this kind of overlaps, it's not a linear process necessarily. Some of this can be happening in the background, is you'll probably start viewing homes. Your realtor will probably share you in on that search to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing that meets your criteria in the right area, the right price range. Let's go see them. And so you'll say, hey, that home, 235 Johnson Avenue, let's go see that one. And your realtor will take you, show you, and you'll get to get a peek behind the scenes and see whether you really love that home, get an idea if it's a good fit for you. Pictures can be deceiving one way or the other. Quick story on that. The first home that my wife and I bought, pictures were terrible. We were a little bit upset that our realtor made us go to that house. We were like, we're not going to like this. And we walked in and we're like, oh, like this is way better than we thought it was going to be. And it ended up being the home that we bought. So pictures can be deceiving on either side. You're going to be viewing those homes. And at some point, you're going to find the right one for you. You're going to find that home that you fall in love with. And at that point, your realtor is going to make an offer for you. They're going to write up an offer. The offer is going to include things like the purchase price, the price that you're going to purchase it at. It's going to include whether or not you're getting a loan. It's going to include when you want to close. It's going to include how long the due diligence period is. We'll talk about that in a second. The amount of earnest money. We'll talk about that also in a second. But it essentially writes up all the terms of how you propose that you're going to buy this home. Again, in the current market right now, the seller is likely going to be reviewing several offers, probably all pretty good and pretty competitive. So you really do need to make your offer stand out. And there's some creative ways to do that a good realtor is not just going to send your info in on paper and say, well, hope they choose us. Creative realtors are doing a really good job of getting that seller to know you and be a little bit emotionally attached to you and your family and why that home, they want to pass it on to you because they know that you're going to take good care of it. Again, that's for your realtor to decide. So if that offer is not accepted, you kind of go back and repeat the step before. You're back to looking at homes and finding the next one that's the right one for you. If it is accepted, then you're on to the next stage. And that's going to mean that you are now under contract. You're under contract to buy that home. You have not purchased that home yet. It is not yours. You are under contract to purchase that home. That's really important to remember. You have not purchased the home at that point. There's still some work to do. You are in what's called a due diligence period. As long as that's something that you wrote into your offer, which I highly recommend you include a due diligence period. Even in the crazy market right now, it might be a really short due diligence period, but I don't recommend waiving it entirely because you're going to want to do a home inspection. You're going to want to find an inspector to go to that home and start really, really looking underneath the rugs and in the closets and all that stuff. They're looking for issues. They're looking for things that might cause problems, either currently or down the road. It's a really important stage of the process because you might have made an offer for a house. Let's say you offered $350, and now all of a sudden the inspector comes in and they're revealing that there's $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 of work that's going to need to be done. Well, maybe 350 isn't the right number anymore. And so a couple of things can happen there. One, you can negotiate again. You can come back and say, hey, all this stuff needs to be done. I thought that I was buying a home in good shape. I thought I was buying a home that was ready to move into at that 350 number. So it's not in good working shape. It needs this work. Either you, the seller, I'm asking you to do the repairs, hire out the repairs, or I'm asking you to come down on price so that I can hire out to do those repairs. That's a really important stage of the negotiation process. It is on the back side of the inspections, making sure that as a buyer's agent, we're getting you a home that's either in good enough shape to be worth the price that you paid for it, or the price comes down enough to where you have room to do what needs to be done in that home. The other thing that's going to be going on in this period is the appraisal. Now, if you're offering all cash, that's not a necessary part. But if there's a bank involved, they're going to want an appraisal done because they want to know how much that home's actually worth. If you don't pay them, the home is their asset to recover the money that they gave you. So they want to do the appraisal to know the actual value of that home. Now, if you're not making a cash offer, the appraisal is a pretty important piece because that essentially the bank's going to say, we're going to loan you an amount of money based on how much the home appraises for. Right now in this market, and this is not a suggestion, this is just the reality of what's going on, a lot of people are waiving the appraisal contingency to say, it doesn't matter what it appraises for, if it comes in low, we'll put in extra cash to cover it. We'll essentially make our down payment larger than we planned on to cover that appraisal gap. Again, this is not necessarily linear. Another thing happening in this time is you're actually doing your formal loan application, not just the pre-approval. You're getting really down into the nitty-gritty. They're going to be doing employment verifications. They're going to be contacting your bank. They're going to be doing all that kind of stuff. They're going to be doing the underwriting process, which is really diving below the curtain on all of your financial information and making sure that they feel good about loaning you the amount of money that they're loaning you. You're going to probably be providing some additional info at that point. They're going to say, hey, we actually need 6 months of pay stubs. They're going to say, hey, we actually need this record. Don't be surprised by it. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. It doesn't mean anything's in trouble. It just means they're doing their job. They're just really, really making sure that they want to loan you the money that they're agreeing to loan you. Another thing happening kind of at this point is earnest money. Now, earnest money is an amount that you offer to say, hey, this is us paying you on the front side to show you that we're serious about purchasing your home, to show you that we mean business here. And so you're going to offer a certain amount of money in earnest money. I'm not going to give you a recommendation of how much. That's case by case. But you're going to offer that money. And it's going to normally, in most cases, go into an escrow account that's held by a third party. A lot of times the closing attorney, sometimes it's the real estate agent that you use, whatever it is. But that money is going to be held by a third party until the due diligence period at least expires, and then that money will go to the seller. Essentially, that's just to make sure that they don't take the money and run. It's just a part of the contractual process. So all that's going on. As we get down to the wire here, there's just a couple last things. One, you're going to do a final walkthrough of the property that you're purchasing. And that's a really important step. Don't skip that step. A lot of people think, well, I've seen the house, I'm buying it tomorrow, why do I need to walk through today? Well, for a couple reasons. One, you want to make sure that any repairs, anything that they were supposed to be doing during this period has actually gotten done. You want to make sure that they didn't just say they were replacing the carpet in this room. You want to go see that the carpet has been replaced. The other thing is you want to make sure that all the fixtures that they agreed to leave in place have been left in place. You don't want to show up and there's a chandelier missing and you're thinking, well, we didn't agree to that. That happens often, is that people take things that they didn't necessarily weren't supposed to take. So you want to make sure that that's not happening. The next thing and kind of the final thing is after the walkthrough, if everything's good, you will go to your closing. And my advice for your closing is to do some wrist stretching the day before, because you're going to sign your name a lot of times, especially if it's a purchase that involves a loan. That bank's going to want your signature a bunch of times. So get ready to sign your name a lot. But essentially the closing is just showing up and actually the very final step in the process. The closing attorney will have calculated all the prorations to say, hey, the owner already paid taxes for this year, so they're going to get some money back. They haven't, so they need to pay some extra. Here's what to do with HOA. All kinds of stuff the closing attorney's been doing during that period. And that day you're just showing up and agreeing to fulfill all of the terms, fulfill all the obligations that you've agreed to. At that point, once that once that closing has been recorded and the deed has been signed over, and that's recorded at your normally county tax office, you own that home and you'll get the keys. And the next step is just to enjoy your new home. So again, I know that's a lot of information, but if you are someone looking to buy your first home, I think it's really, really helpful to understand the process start to finish. Get a picture of what's going to be happening, not just on your side, but behind the scenes, because honestly, once you find that home and get your offer accepted, a lot of the work is going on from your lender and from your realtor. You get to kind of chill a little bit during that period, hopefully. If you have a good lender and a good realtor, they're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting from then on. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I wish you luck and success in your home buying process. If you're looking in the metro Atlanta area, reach out to me and let's get started on finding that perfect home for you and your family. Well, before we wrap up this week's episode of Real Estate for Toddlers, a quick little trivia exercise. Comment below your answers, and whoever is the right one, well, whoever the first right one is, will win a $10 Starbucks gift card. I'll send it to you digitally, so it doesn't matter where you're commenting from, I'll get it to you. $10 Starbucks gift card on the line to answer this question. It has two answers. First, what state has the most expensive cost of living? And second, what state has the least expensive cost of living? What is the most expensive state to live in, and what is the least expensive state to live in? Comment below. If you're right, if you're the first one that's right, you'll get a gift card sent your way. I want to thank you again for joining us for this week's Real Estate for Toddlers, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give the channel a subscribe and turn on notifications. If this video helped you at all, please give it a like and feel free to share it with your friends who might be looking for their next home.